those pesky tech gremlins, am I right?
Always seem to strike at the worst times.
Tell me about it. And you know, it's funny, we Apple folks, we're kind of used to things, just working.
Right, the Aqua Magic.
Exactly. So when something like charging, something basic, starts acting up in macOS 15, well, let's just say it throws a wrench in the whole smooth sailing Apple experience.
You're preaching to the choir. I think we've all been there.
And the thing is, with this whole macOS charging situation, you are definitely not alone.
Not by a long shot.
Nope, we're talking widespread USB-C charging woes.
Yeah.
In fact, one user we came across, a Fen, they thought their MagSafe was toast.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah, they were about ready to order a new one. But it turns out, it's not just them, not just a few isolated cases. We've been digging into forums, articles, all the usual haunts, and it's clear this is a thing.
A real head scratcher.
Totally. So, think of this deep dive as your cheat sheet to, hopefully, saving some sanity. We're going beyond the typical tech headlines to give you the what, the why, and the will my Mac ever charge again? Because let's be real, that's the question on everyone's mind right now.
The million-dollar question.
Exactly. So let's jump right in. From what we've gathered, it seems like the heart of the issue lies with macOS 15 itself, not necessarily your hardware.
You mean it's not our beloved dongles and adapters for once?
Maybe not this time. It seems users, including our friend Ivan, are reporting all sorts of charging shenanigans, from their MacBooks acting like they're not even plugged in to charging that's more on again, off again than, you get the picture.
Oh, I get it. Like trying to pin down the weather forecast?
Exactly. Completely unpredictable.
And you know what's really adding fuel to the fire here?
What's that?
It's that USB-C isn't just some random port anymore.
Oh, you're telling me?
It's the standard. Displays, external drives, you name it, it all runs through that little port.
So when it goes on a fritz, your whole workflow can go kaput?
Exactly. It's like hitting a digital brick wall.
And I actually saw Finhelm mention they missed a deadline because of this charging chaos.
Ooh, that's rough.
Yeah, talk about stressful.
Yeah.
But what's really got me puzzled is how this seems to be affecting all sorts of USB-C ports. I mean, the article mentions it's not tied to a specific cable or charger, which kind of points the finger at a software glitch, right?
That's certainly where the evidence seems to be leading.
Right. And here's the clincher. Even the latest macOS 15 release candidate, the one that's supposed to be the stable version.
Yeah, what about it?
It still has the issue.
You're kidding.
Nope. So it's definitely not just a few unlucky souls dealing with this. It's a full-blown macOS mystery.
A real head scratcher, and not exactly ideal for anyone who relies on their Mac for, well, everything.
Tell me about it. The anxiety of not knowing if your device is going to power up properly. Talk about a tech nightmare.
It's enough to make you want to go off grid.
It's like we're all stuck doing this weird tech ritual, hoping our MacBooks will magically start charging.
Right. You got your lucky cable, your special charging spot, the whole 9 yards.
And don't forget the frantic port cycling.
Ah, yes, the old plug, unplug, replug, shuffle.
Exactly. It's like we've gone back to the days of whacking our TVs to get a clear picture.
Hey, if it works, right? But in all seriousness, it does make you wonder, what's the deal with this whole USB-C situation? I mean, remember when we had a dedicated charger for practically every device?
Oh, tell me about it. My junk drawer is basically a graveyard of old chargers and adapters.
Right. And as annoying as it is right now, this whole macOS charging thing does make you think twice about the trade-offs,
How so?
Well, we've gone all in on USB-C, streamlined everything, which is great in theory. But then something like this pops up, and suddenly you realize the downside of having all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's like the flip side of convenience.
Exactly. We've simplified things on the surface, but maybe we've also made ourselves a bit more vulnerable in the process.
That's a really thought-provoking way to look at it. It's like the tech equivalent of too big to fail, but for charging.
Exactly. But, okay, before we get too philosophical about the future of charging ports, let's get back to helping our listeners navigate the present. So the article mentioned digging into system information and activity monitor, which might sound a bit intimidating for some, but it could actually be really helpful in this case.
Yeah, those tools can seem a bit like the hidden depths of Mac-O.
True, but they're not as scary as they sound. Think of system information like, I don't know, your Mac's personal health journal.
I like that.
It basically tells you what your Mac sees, including whether it's actually recognizing that a charger is connected.
So if it's not showing up there, the problem's not with your cable or port. It's something with macOS itself.
Bingo. It helps you narrow things down.
Very helpful.
Yeah.
And what about activity monitor? What kind of clues can we uncover there?
Well, activity monitor is more like, imagine you've got X-ray vision into your Mac's inner workings. It shows you all the processes running, how much system resources they're using, that kind of thing.
So in the context of this charging issue, what should we be looking for?
Well, you'd be looking for anything unusual related to USB connections. Maybe a process is going haywire, interfering with charging. Who knows?
So it's like we're playing tech detective trying to follow the digital breadcrumbs.
Exactly. And hey, maybe you'll find something interesting. But let's be real, not everyone's comfortable digging around in their Mac's guts like that. So for those who prefer a less, shall we say, invasive approach, the article did mention a few temporary workarounds.
Right, because let's be honest, sometimes you just need a quick fix, even if it's not the most elegant solution.
Totally. We're talking Band-Aids, not cures.
Exactly. So what are some of the things people have had luck with?
Well, one thing that's worked for some people is having a spare USB-C hub on hand. You know, kind of like a workaround for the workaround.
So you're basically bypassing the Mac's built-in ports and hoping for the best.
Pretty much. Not ideal, but hey, desperate times. Another thing you can try is dusting off an older charger, if you've got one lying around.
You mean like a pre-USB-C charger?
Exactly. Again, not the most elegant solution, but if it gets your Mac juiced up, who's complaining?
True that. A charged Mac is a happy Mac, even if it's powered by a vintage adapter.
Exactly.
You know, reading through all of this, it makes you wonder if this whole charging issue might be related to something like drivers or power management in macOS 15.
That's a good question.
Because, I mean, drivers are notorious for causing all sorts of weird behavior, right?
Oh yeah, drivers can be a real pain. And power management, that's a whole other can of worms,
Yeah.
especially with USB-C and how it handles power delivery. It's complicated stuff.
So you could totally see how a bug in either of those areas could be causing this charging chaos.
Absolutely. Apple hasn't released any official statements about the root cause yet, but it wouldn't surprise me in the least if it turned out to be a driver or power management issue.
Well, hopefully they're burning the midnight oil as we speak, trying to squash this bug. But in the meantime, is there anything our listeners can do to, make their voices heard, maybe speed up the process a bit?
Absolutely. And it's simple. Report, report, report.
You mean reach out to Apple support?
Exactly. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, right?
Yeah.
The more people who contact Apple describe their experiences in detail, the more attention this issue will get.
And hopefully the quicker they'll prioritize a fix.
Fingers crossed. And hey, while you're at it, don't just tell them about the problem. Tell them about the workarounds you've tried, what's worked, what hasn't. The more information they have, the better.
It's like crowdfunding a solution, but with tech support tickets.
Exactly. And speaking of information, the article also stressed the importance of documenting these charging woes, keeping a record of when they occur, what you've tried, that sort of thing. Might seem like a pain, but it can be really helpful in the long run.
Yeah, I could see how that would be useful, especially if you end up needing to work with Apple support.
Exactly. Think of it like building a case file for your tech support superhero. You want to give them all the evidence they need to swoop in and save the day.
I love that analogy. It's like we're all tech detectives in our own right. Speaking of which, let's shift gears a bit and dive into some of the more, shall we say, intriguing aspects of this whole USB-C situation. Because it's not every day that a single charging standard has the power to bring the tech world to its knees, right?
You're telling me. It's like something out of a sci-fi novel.
It's wild, right? You'd think we were talking about some super complex piece of technology, but nope. It's the humble charging port that's got everyone in a tizzy.
It just goes to show you how central, how absolutely vital charging has become to our digital lives.
It's like we're all plugged into this invisible power grid of expectations.
And when that grid gets disrupted even a little bit, it sends shockwaves through everything.
Totally. And this whole USB-C situation is like a crash course in tech dependence, wouldn't you say?
100%. We've all gotten so used to the simplicity, the elegance of USB-C. One port to rule them all, right?
Exactly. But then something like this happens, and it's like, whoa, maybe we put all our charging eggs in one basket a little too quickly.
It's the classic trade-off, convenience versus vulnerability. And right now, we're seeing the vulnerability side of the equation play out in real time.
And for some users, it's more than just an inconvenience, it's a major disruption. Think about our friend Ivan missing deadlines, dealing with the stress of an unreliable device.
It really highlights the human cost of these tech hiccups. We tend to focus on the technical details, but at the end of the day, it's people's lives, their work, their connections that are being impacted.
Absolutely. And that's why, even though we've been digging into the tech side of things, it's important to remember that there are real people dealing with this charging conundrum every day.
Exactly. And one thing that's really struck me is the incredible resourcefulness of the online community. I mean, people have been coming up with some truly ingenious workarounds to get their Macs charged.
Oh, tell me about it. It's like the collective tech wisdom of the internet has been activated.
Right. You've got people sharing tips on specific USB-C hubs that seem to work more consistently, digging up old adapters from the depths of their drawers. It's inspiring, in a way.
It really is. Like, even when faced with a tech gremlin this big, people find a way.
It speaks to our adaptability, right? Our ability to problem solve and share solutions.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
So for our listeners who are still battling these charging woes, just know that you're not alone. And who knows, maybe your experience, your workaround could be the key to helping someone else out there.
Exactly. So don't be shy, share your story. Whether it's on our website, social media, or even just in conversation with another Mac user, every little bit helps.
Because at the end of the day, we're all in this tech-driven world together. And by sharing our experiences, our frustrations, our how did that work moments, we can make navigating the digital landscape a little bit easier for everyone.
Couldn't agree more.
And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive into the world of macOS 15 charging woes. We've covered a lot of ground, from the technical details to the human impact, and hopefully you're walking away with a better understanding of what's going on and what you can do about it.
And maybe, just maybe, this whole experience will make us all appreciate the little things a bit more, like a fully charged laptop.
Ain't that the truth? Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and may your devices always stay powered up.